What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Red Zone Room podcast. I am the tailgate, joined by 440 Sports. How you doing today?
Oh, always good to talk football. Let's get into it.
Always good. All right, so just a quick little outline for the day. We're gonna start off with the news, for really the first news piece of the official offseason, not including Matt Stafford. We got Carson Wentz traded to the Indianapolis Colts. We'll get into the specifics about the trade, who won it, who lost it, if there are any winners or losers, and how each team is going, what the outlook for each team is going to be. And then, plain and simple, we're just, 449ers going to give our top six players at these skill positions: quarterback, running back, and receiver. This, for a little disclosure, this is not based on last season. This is more of an overall thing, how we think the not only the future outlook of the players is going to be, but more of the last few years of production the players have done. So let's just hop right into it. What are your thoughts about the Carson Wentz trade?
Okay, well, first of all, my mic was terrible last time, and we're on a new setting this time. So if I cut in and out, just let me know. But
Got you.
this great move by the Colts. I think Ballard's one of the best GMs in the league. I don't really care if you think that's biased. I've heard a lot of other people say that too, though, like Ravens fans, for example. But I mean, if you look at our options, this was by far the best option, in my opinion, because it was really the only option that at least has the possibility of making you Super Bowl contenders. Because I mean, really, other options. I think Cousins and Carr both were kind of taken off the trade block. I don't think they're going anywhere. Dak is going to end up being a Cowboy. We weren't just going to sit around and wait on that to happen, and then miss out on Wentz. And then you got other options with like Fitzpatrick and Darnold and Dalton. Like none of those are Super Bowl contender. They don't make a Super Bowl contender. So this one's one. In my opinion, I think he's going to be good, and that's what I said before he even went to the Colts. I said if he gets a good situation, then he can succeed. I think, but if he stays in Philly, I don't know. I don't really see him doing much better. Um, so when you get on a team where first of all he has not only Reich as a connection, but there was two other coaches on our staff that were on the same staff for their Super Bowl year, his 2017 year, where he was off the charts. So when you come to the Colts and you got that, first of all, you get a full off season. I'm not even. Yeah, it's a great culture at the Colts, but you get a top 5 line. You get a receiving core that right now, as of now, it's just an upgrade from the Eagles, just a little bit. It's still probably a little bit of a below average receiving core, but we're still up there at the fourth or fifth most cap space in the league after this Wentz trade. I fully expect Chris Ballard to get a receiver. Um, I mean, he knows damn well that we need a receiver. And you know what? If not, I still think it's work. He can still work with this. Or worst case, we get because obviously we want a Rob or Galladay or Godwin, but maybe worst case we end up with like Marvin Jones or somebody like not quite on that top tier. But either way, I love the whole situation. Top five line, top five backfield. Our whole team is run heavy. It's a great run game, and we got a top 10 defense back there. It just seems to me like it's a hard situation to fail in. Rivers, I mean, people forget that Rivers was not good his last year with the Chargers before he came over to the Colts. And I'm not like he was this top 15 quarterback or anything, but um, like he was solid. I mean, I would not call him a bad quarterback last year. He was serviceable, is what I'll tag him as. And he got a little too much hate. He was pretty underrated last year. Not that he was a top 15 quarterback. He was top 20 though. And it was pretty evident that we needed an upgrade. So I think Wentz coming over. People also forget about how talented and athletic Carson Wentz is. And I know the one thing is, can he fix these mechanics and can he fix his decision making? And honestly, I trust Reich and our coaching staff to help develop him and fix that stuff in the offseason, but that's just my take.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at from Carson Wentz's perspective, I don't think that there is a team in the NFL, with the exception of maybe the Washington football team, where he could be put in a better situation than Indianapolis. Again, for all the reasons you already named, I'm not just gonna name them again. I don't know. it's so tough to gauge. It really is, because you don't know what Carson Wentz you're going to get. And there are all the signs are pointing in the direction of him potentially bouncing back from his awful year last year. But then again, when you have a quarterback who goes from where he was and then has a big injury and then falls to where he is, there's a lot of uncertainty of where he's going to go. I will say, like I said before, this situation does help him out. If they don't bring in another receiver to make I guess I'll call it the healing process of Carson Wentz's career, if they don't bring in another receiver to help that out, it's going to make things a lot tougher. And that, to me, is what's kind of going to restrict me from putting them in the Super Bowl conversation just yet. There are definitely a few factors that go into that, but it's mostly just because of the uncertainty. Just from the trade details perspective, the Colts gave up a second round pick that could be a first, and including in addition, with the third round pick. Again, that's the floor. That's as low as you're going to get for a former MVP contender in Carson Wentz. I feel like if you're the Colts, you have to do it. Like you said before, 440. I mean, this was the best case scenario of any quarterback that could have potentially been a long-term future answer. I just don't know if in long term, hindsight 2020, but right now, don't know if it's the greatest move in the world for the Colts. I think it's a great pick, a great move for the Eagles, though. Look, you're gonna have to pay that money. You're not gonna be able to get rid of that money, so it's gonna be a cap hit for you. Might as well try to get a second potential first and third round pick out of it, because the Eagles aren't going to be winning. And for the people that are saying, "Oh, the Colts won this trade and it's not even close," that's not true. It's just not. You have to take into consideration these two teams' different circumstances. One team is trying to compete for a Super Bowl, and one team is trying to build up younger talent for the future. The Eagles did what they could in order to build for the future, and the Colts did what they could to build for now. Of course, is a second and a third market value for Carson Wentz? Maybe not, because of how talented he was in years past. But again, when you take into both teams' situations, this is what the Eagles had to do. So I don't blame them for doing it. If you were to tell me a week ago, this is the offer, would you or not? I'd say yes, and I wouldn't think twice about it. I'd build towards the future, give Jalen Hurts the keys to the franchise, give him all of the confidence in the world, and see what you can do. So if I were to grade this, I would say around for the Colts, I would say probably a B plus. The reason I'm not putting any higher is just because of the uncertainty. And for the Eagles, again, probably the same spot, maybe a B minus B, because you didn't get exactly the market value, but you did what you had to do to build for the future. What would your grade be?
I mean, I don't really know how to give it a grade. I just would say that both teams won this trade. I mean, for the same reasons you said, the Eagles made a good trade. It was what they had to do. But I mean, so there's the possibility that Carson Wentz does end up not playing well next year. Well, I mean, I guess my point was that it's more likely that he succeeds, because I feel like it's harder to fail, especially with a beautiful situation. But I mean, to be honest, I think obviously quarterback's probably the most important position, but I mean, with the receiver thing, first of all, I fully expect that we will get a receiver. Say in some crazy circumstance we don't, we involve our tight ends more than receivers in the pass game, to be honest, and even our running backs at sometimes. But I don't think it's obviously a top need, but I don't think it's completely crucial. But another
I
thing
just
that
think if you look
nobody,
at every contender in the NFL right now, every single one has a receiver outside the numbers. So if you're the Colts, you have Carson Wentz, and your entire scheme is built by Jack Doyle, Mo Alley Cox, and Trey Burton, Neheim. I don't know the pronunciation. You have Hines and Taylor in the backfield, and Marlon Mack if he comes back. You're all up the gut. You have no one on the outside. Michael Pittman might be that guy, but again, you don't want to structure your offense off of might be. Jonathan Taylor might be a top 5 running back. Michael Pittman might be a top 15 receiver. Carson Wentz might return back to his form, but I feel like once you start to pile up those mites, one of those mites, it might not happen. So I
the
feel like
only,
you have to get a top 5, top 4 receiver in free agency.
in my opinion, the only might is on Wentz. I mean, obviously, it's all hypothetical that we get a receiver, but like I said, how Ballard knows what he's doing. That was a very great trade. Obviously, we already talked about that, but to get him for such dirt
Yeah.
cheap, he's gonna get a receiver. At least at worst, it'll be someone like Corey Davis, which I could definitely work with.
I'm more thinking about it long term. So what does he have? 2 years left? 3 years left?
Who wins?
Yeah,
I think it was like 3 or 4.
3 or 4. So my whole
But
point
hey,
is,
but if he doesn't pan out next year, we can cut or trade him without taking any cap hit. So
oh, okay, well that
that's what I
changes a
was
lot
gonna
of
say.
things. My thought process was, let's say he shits the bed, 16 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, just like he did past season. You're attached to his name for another $75 million. But if that's the
But yeah.
case, that obviously changes something. But again, like if you're the Colts, do you just want to catch yourself in this quarterback carousel? I mean, you've been in it for the last half a decade. You had what, Scott Tolzien, Andrew Luck, Philip Rivers, and Jacoby Brissett the last 4 years for your week 1 starter. I mean, I don't know. If I'm a Colts fan, or if I'm the Colts front office, I'd rather get rid of that headache. Again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to change my view. I'm just trying to approach it from all different points of view. I still think it was a solid trade for the Colts. And again, more importantly, I think it's what the Colts had to do, and to do it for such a low cost, obviously extremely beneficial. You can't deny the risk that's involved with it.
I mean, yeah, there's risk, but like I said, I'm expecting him to succeed. I'm not. It's always a hypothetical, but I'm not as worried as I think most people are. But it's my
Yeah,
take.
yeah. All right. Anything else you got?
Not really.
Not really. All right. Let's move into our final segment of the day, but this segment will take, I don't know, probably 30, 40 minutes, I'm assuming. We got our top 6 at every single position. We'll start off with, what do you think the least controversial one is? Quarterback?
Yeah,
All right. We'll start off with quarterback first. Give me your 1, 2, and 3.
my 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. And I'll give my 1, 2, and 3, and then you can give your 4, 5, and 6. We can split it
Oh,
up.
Mahomes and Rodgers on their own tier, and then Watson right behind them.
All right, I have the same thing. No, sorry, I do not. No, I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. I have Mahomes number 1, I have Watson number 2, and I have Rodgers number 3.
Why? Why Watson over Rodgers?
More just a situational thing. I think that Rodgers and Watson stats are over. Again, guys, just for another little thing that I tried to preface in the beginning. This is over the last few years. So obviously last season, Rodgers was the best quarterback in the NFL. He threw 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I'm just talking about the last few years. I think not only has Watson put up very comparable stats, if not better stats than Rodgers had in some departments, but he's done it with a much, much worse offense. So that's kind of why I give him the nod over Rodgers. When it just comes to an overall thing, like again, I see the argument. I just think Watson was better.
I guess. I mean, I'm still going Rodgers, but I mean, I guess not a bad argument.
All
Preference,
right,
I guess.
give me your 4, 5, and 6.
4 Russell Wilson, 5 Josh Allen, 6 Tom Brady.
Tom Brady at 6, really? Might have to restructure mine. You can honestly convince me that way. Again, same thing. I have 4 Russell Wilson, 5 Josh Allen, 6 I have Lamar Jackson. Kind of the same argument where I put Watson over Rodgers. Maybe you could argue I'm weighing the situations too heavily, and honestly, again, very understandable. I just think, look, Lamar put up solid stats, not only rushing the ball, but efficiency wise, he put up some pretty solid passing stats, and he did it with not a whole lot to throw the ball to. So Marquise Brown is a excuse of a first or second string receiver. He is most definitely a third string guy. Mark Andrews was beat up for a majority of the season, battled COVID, knee issues. And that leaves, I mean, Nick, if you want to even talk about him, Nick Boyle went on IR for the entire season earlier into the year. Like, he had nobody to throw the ball to. So I don't know. I think you got to give him some credit for him to be able to take that team to 11-5. To me is great. Again, you could definitely convince me to put Tom Brady at number 6. I was tempted to leave Josh Allen outside of number 5 and put him at number 6, but I feel like I gotta put him at 5, I guess.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand that. You can't put Lamar over Allen. In my opinion. I mean, once again, though, it's hard to compare Lamar to anyone. Like, I'm not going to sit here and compare Lamar to Tom Brady because, like, it's completely different.
Yeah, completely different. But I think if you just go from output, like Josh Allen before this season, people were calling for his job. People didn't think that Josh Allen should be a starter. And that's so forgotten in the NFL media. Like people hated Josh Allen as a player. So all of a sudden he has this miraculous season and now he's landing in everybody's top three. And I don't get it. Like people are just completely forgetting how much of a shit show this guy's career was before this season. So look, his future outlook to me is great. Or sorry, solid. I don't know. Like I don't think he'll be a top 3 quarterback next season. I don't think he'll be top 4. Maybe 5. Maybe 5 if the same offense comes back next year and they draft a running back if the rumors come true. But again, Lamar Jackson, another player. People just forget what he did last year. He was the MVP of the NFL Football League. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have Lamar at 7, right behind Brady. Um, where would you put Dak? Because that's a controversial one.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, Dak is great. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if I'd put Dak. I don't know who would you put ahead of Dak after 7 is Lamar. Who would you put ahead of Dak?
Yeah, that's my problem. I don't really know that I can, and I feel like 8. I don't know. It seems like it's too high, but like I don't think I can put anyone else above him. I mean, I'm a big Dak guy.
Maybe Tannehill. No,
Uh, Probably not.
I don't know. I'm just scrolling through
I'm just.
ESPN's
I mean, I'm just. I
standings.
don't. I don't. I mean, nobody has a good excuse for Dak slander, in my opinion, because the top one is the record. Oh, it's not a quarterback stat, guys. Don't even get started on that because that's terrible. Um, that's the main thing. He went 8-8 last year with the 11th ranked defense, which by the way they were. That's I don't know why they were ranked 11th. I don't think they were top 15 last year, but um, it's just you can't. Once again, you can't. I'm not even gonna get into it. That's a whole separate thing. It's not a quarterback stat.
Yeah, he
Um,
had a hell of a year. I'd probably put him 8. I think 8's a
yeah,
pretty
and
solid spot for him.
people just want to take away from the year he had this year and just tag it as it was all garbage time, and I understand that. I mean, you're not going to throw for 500 plus yards a game if you have if you have a competent defense, but you can't tell me, um, oh, it was all garbage time when I'm going to pull up the Cowboys when he was playing. To be honest, I don't think you could tag much of it as garbage time. And now, like I can understand that it was like it was because the defense is just letting them score and then you're getting the ball back. But I mean, he was literally keeping his teams in games,
Oh yeah,
and
no, he
people.
was sick, especially this season. In the 5 game sample size that he put up, I mean, he was putting
I
this
mean, I
team
mean,
on his
and
back.
it's like, oh, okay, throws for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. Oh, it was just garbage time. That's not impressive at all. Really?
I
Like
hate to say it, but dude, but think about Deshaun Watson. I mean, you could use the same argument on him. His defense sucks more than what Prescott's does.
Mhm.
And people
but
never,
but I mean,
maybe not never, but people don't use that argument more, as frequently. But honestly, I think you can probably agree with this. There's normally like a range you can put every player. You know what I mean? Like you can put him as high as 5, as low as 10, like stuff like that. I don't see how you can put Dak Prescott out of the 8th spot.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. Like I'm just thinking about it. You have to put Lamar higher. You have to put Brady higher. And I think you're right. I don't think you can put Tannehill higher. You can't put Kyler Murray higher. You can't put Stafford higher. Nope, not Cousins, not Carr.
See, like I think those guys are all right behind him. But maybe not even right behind him. But like, I'm not saying there's a huge gap between them, but in my opinion, you can't really make a case to put one of those guys over him. And this garbage time thing,
Ooh, what about Herbert? Off of one season.
it's tough for me to do that off of 1 year. I
Because
think
you
probably
got to take the
next year.
offensive
If you're telling
coordinator.
me he's over him next year, like as a prediction, that's not crazy to me.
I
But
don't know. Because you can't really compare the situations. The Chargers and the Cowboys are the same exact team.
I mean,
Solid
that's like
run game, shaky offensive line, great weapons. I don't know. Herbert put up a stud year. And he did in
It's
15
just
games.
it seems like overrating him if you're going to put him as a top 8 quarterback though.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
true.
where those people with this you like people that don't think Dak is top 10 is they're going to be like, "Oh, he can't win." Well, Herbert also went 7 and 9. And I'm not agreeing with that
Hmm.
quarterback thing, but this garbage time thing. I mean, week 1 that Cowboys lost by 3, week 2 Dak let it come back. Yes, it was the Falcons' terrible choking defense, but all right, I mean, he won that. So,
Can't take it away from him.
Seahawks 38, Cowboys 31 was the next game. The next game was Browns 49 to Cowboys 38. The man was keeping his team in these games.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why people just say, "Oh, it's just garbage time" when he's the one keeping them in the game, and I don't care that he's throwing for 500 yards because um, his defense is just letting him do that. Basically, I don't know how to word that, but bottom line is, say he even had a good defense. I'm not saying obviously he's not going to throw for 500 yards a game, but you can't tell me he's not going to put up elite numbers.
And also, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I really don't look at yardages when I look at how good a quarterback is.
Yeah, oh
Yardage
yeah,
is
no,
one of the last things I look at if I'm being completely honest with you. Maybe that's not a
because
good thing. Maybe I should be weighing it
Matt
a little more
Ryan,
heavily.
Matt Ryan finishes in the top 5 passing yards every
Yeah,
year, and he's so
exactly. So like
it's
the things just for if you're interested in what I look at, I don't know why you would be, but I first things I always look at touchdown to interception ratio, completion percentage, and rating, and that's normally it. And obviously you can get into like the super advanced, analytical things, but I don't know. I usually think the surface value stats usually, give you a good picture of who the better quarterback is, in my opinion. But
yeah.
um, I think we're pretty consensus on that, though. I just have Jackson and Brady flip, but that's really it. And honestly, if you were to give me a 2.5 minute pitch on why Brady's better than Jackson, I'd probably agree with you. Like that's very interchangeable for me. But unless you got nothing else to add, you want to hop over to running back?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're gonna do 1 and 2 first because I think you and I are pretty consensus on 1 and 2, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6 are. I'd be surprised if you and I agreed on any spot for 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what are your 1 and 2?
It's to be honest, I could go either one. It's Saquon and CMC for me. Um, I think it's a 1A, 1B. If you're gonna make me pick, I guess I'll go Saquon. And once again, don't quote me on that because honestly, you can take either one of these guys. But the CMC, that one's not going to be controversial. But obviously, you got all these casuals out there saying Saquon's overrated. Um, Saquon is that guy that you just gotta watch him. There's not many stats that are gonna back him up, but just the way I have been explaining why he's still easily a top 3 back in the league, top 2 in my opinion, is the man will obviously terrible offensive line, um, and the reason why Gallman produced well is because they flipped the whole playbook. They used to just be here, Saquon, you just do everything, and now it's like it's a balanced playbook, and that's why Goldman can succeed. Um, but yeah, I mean, and he's getting less stack boxes, but Saquon will literally turn. I mean, he'll get the handoff and just get hit right away. He'll turn a negative 4 yard play into a 4 yard gain, and it's not going to show up as an 8 yard gain when it should be. And there's not many stats that are going to back that up. It's just one of those things where if you watch Giants games or even film, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I go through and watch everybody's film, but Saquon is one of those guys where I actually have watched his film. And my God, he is by far the most talented, by far the most athletic running back in the league. Uh, and we'll get into Henry after that because I know you all wondering why Henry's not up in the top 2, but yeah, Saquon's talent is through the roof, and I think if he ever got a good situation, he would go back to being the best because he's one of those guys that once again people just forget about what he can do.
Yeah. Um. I promised myself I wouldn't bring it up, but it does kind of, in a way. Now, hear me out first before you run to the comments. Hear me out first. Saquon had a historic first year, 2018, fantastic year. Second year got hurt, missed 3 games, but still had a great year. 1,000 rushing yards, 400 receiving yards. And last year, obviously, got hurt. it reminds me of Juju in a way, where Juju had a fantastic 2018 year. He had a down year in 2019. And Saquon didn't even have a down year. He put up very similar per game stats, but they were down in almost every category. And then 2020 just wasn't himself. Again, for Saquon, he was injured, so a little bit different. That's the reason I have McCaffrey 1 and Saquon 2, because I feel like part of being a good running back is not only durability, but consistency. And I feel like McCaffrey's more consistent because both of them durability is obviously an issue. McCaffrey missed most of the year. Saquon missed most of the year this season. So I would take McCaffrey over Saquon. Again, it's close. That could be swayed very easily if Saquon puts up another 2018 season this year. But that's why I thought about putting Henry over Saquon just for more of just a recency bias thing. 2,000 rushing yards is unreal. But again, you got to take into account their situations. Saquon's offensive line is much worse. Offense as a whole is much more unstable. And, Derrick Henry's got bricks for hands. So Saquon's pass catching ability does set him apart for me. And not only that, but just his pure athleticism. So yeah, that's why I have CMC 1 and Saquon 2. But number 3, what do you got?
I mean, I got Henry at 3, obviously. You can't. I don't think you can really put Henry lower than 3. And I mean, yeah, it's like obviously the 2,000 rushing yards. But the whole reason to me, because I know what people are thinking right now, is how can you put Saquon over Derrick Henry? He just rushed for 2,000 yards. I think we've talked about Chris McCaffrey and Henry, but Saquon, I do not like the hypothetical things, but I'm going to use it anyway because that's one of the only arguments I'm going to be able to use. But you put Henry on the Giants, and you can't tell me he does much better than Saquon's been doing. You put Saquon on the Titans, and I don't think he takes much of a step back from Henry. And I know they're completely different play styles, but like I've said before, I'm one of those guys that is sick of the Derrick Henry is the only reason why Ryan Tannehill is good. That's a dumb argument because they need each other. There's a reason why Henry wasn't good until
Ryan Tannehill was really good at Miami. When he
What?
was healthy, Ryan Tannehill was really good at Miami.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know what that was. What is that relating to?
Because you're saying how you don't like the
Uh,
argument about how Henry made Ryan Tannehill. I'm like, no, but he was actually really good in Miami. People
I
never
wouldn't say really good. He was not top 10 in Miami,
No, he wasn't top 10, but
but
he was solid. What do you have to
um,
do in Miami? He had nothing.
but I mean, if you put like Saquon, obviously, is he getting any help from Daniel Jones? No. Their receiving core is not good. Their O line's not good. He's just in a terrible situation, and he's literally their whole entire offense. And the people that judge him off for this year don't even try that because he played the Bears defense, the Steelers defense, the two of the best defenses in the league, top 10, obviously, probably higher than that. Steelers are top 3 at least. Um, and it's their defensive fronts that are their strength, and you're dealing with a terrible line. I know people watch that Steelers Giants Sunday or Monday night, week 1, and my God, Saquon is just getting destroyed, but before he even got the handoff. Oh, but I guess it's his fault. Um, but so I mean, in my opinion, you give Saquon the situation where obviously people stack the boxes for Derrick Henry in Tennessee, but they also got to worry about Tannehill to AJ Brown. I mean, that's a great pass game too. Uh, Saquon doesn't get that help with Daniel Jones to Darius Slayton to Evan Ingram. Uh, and yeah, this is all hypothetical, but Saquon's more talented than Derrick Henry than me. And Henry, not to take away from Derrick Henry, he's great. He's top 3, but I mean, I think his situation is great. And it's something Saquon's never had. And people forget that Saquon, obviously, he had a great 2018 year. Last year, he still averaged 4.6 yards per carry with that bad of an offensive line. It's impressive.
Yeah, I think so too. Who are your 4, 5, and 6?
So I mean, I got a little tier thing. I drew lines. My obviously 1 and 2 were Saquon CMC, and then that was tier 1. My tier 2, I have made just Derrick Henry, and tier 3 is Cook and Chubb. I don't really know how to compare them, and to be honest, I don't really care who you take here. I'm not even going to rank those two. I think you could go either way. And then I got 6 Kamara.
I cannot believe it, but we are consensus. I did put Cook ahead of Chubb. So I one of my biggest pet peeves, it's really just on TikTok, but it's when people will use a argument for one player but won't use it for another. So I guess just for example, um they'll use, and I did it myself, but I also did it with the next thing I'm about to mention. Oh, Saquon's offensive line is awful. You got to take that into account. You have to put him at least top 2. Okay. Well, then if you're going to take offensive line into account, you have to say that Nick Chubb's offensive line is top 3, if not the best offensive line in the NFL. So you need to take that into account. Like Nick Chubb, again, was solid last year. He was also hurt. He was solid, but nothing like he was this year on a per game basis. Vikings offensive line, again, it's good. It's way better for running than it is passing. But when you look at it on a scale of every other team in the NFL, it's maybe top 10. I don't know. Overall, I don't think the Vikings offensive line is top 10. So I think not only that, not only is Cook in a worse situation, but Cook puts up better numbers, and he also has a pass catching ability, which Nick Chubb just does not have. And do not sit here and say to me, "Oh, well, they have Kareem Hunt for pass catching." Well, no, sure, but if Nick Chubb was good at catching the football, well, then Kevin Stefanski would have Nick Chubb catch the football. He just can't, so they don't make him do it. That's just you make your players do what they're best at, and Nick Chubb is not very good at catching the football, so he doesn't. So that's why I feel like if we're gonna go from this tier thing, I'd put CMC and Saquon, and then I'd put Henry. And honestly, you might want no. Are Henry and Cook on the same tier?
I think you can say that.
Yeah, I'd probably put Henry and Cook on the same tier, and then I put Chubb and Kamara on the one under that. Again, Chubb has the ability and potential to be put in that next tier, and I guess saying his offensive line is that good is, I guess, docking him many points for potentially being the number one, because that'll always be something that's setting him back. But I don't know. I feel like all the running backs above Nick Chubb, if you look at Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, and Delvin Cook, none of them have a top 5 offensive line. None of them do. So for them to be able to put up the numbers they do and do it with honestly, maybe the exception of the Titans, for Derrick Henry being top 10 for offensive lines, none of them have a top 10 offensive line. So for them to put up the numbers they do with their situations, I feel like you got to have some sort of appreciation for that and award them in some sort of way. Whereas Nick Chubb has a number 3 and doesn't put up the same stats that the guys above them do. So that's why I have Chubb at 5, Kamara at 6. Speaking of 6, don't use the 6 touchdowns as a reason to put him top 3. I love Alvin Kamara. He's one of my favorite players to watch, but I just think that, and it's not even a knock on him. It really isn't. He is a phenomenal running back. It's just, he just isn't as good as the players above him. And that's really what it comes down to for me. It's also worth noting that when Drew Brees got hurt and when they shifted into it wasn't even more down the field. Taysom Hill was more short than Drew Brees was, but Alvin Kamara played awful when Taysom Hill was under center. So it makes you think a little bit like, oh, well, was he just good when Drew Brees was under center? Whereas, running backs like Saquon and CMC have dealt with many different not many. Has Saquon have? I think he has. Yeah, many different quarterbacks, and have been able to excel in every situation. Where you guys like Kamara, who have obviously their production dropped off greatly when they were put into a situation with a worse quarterback. So that's kind of the reasoning for my 1 through 6 and why I put the players where I did.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot of angry listeners right now thinking, "Oh, we're disrespecting Alvin Kamara." And first of all, that's not really the point. It's just that those 5 running backs are great, and it shouldn't be disrespectful to put him behind such great running backs like those guys. He is on that easy top 6. Those are the 6 elite running backs in my mind. But there are 2 reasons that the only two reasons that I ever hear for Kamara should be higher, should be top three, or it's well, first of all, he scored 6 touchdowns in a game, which we already talked about, and like, yes, great. I'm not saying that's not impressive, but that cannot be your only evidence of as to why he's a top three running back. And then the next one is he's by far the best receiving running back, and like, I mean, you could make the case that he's the best. Still think McCaffrey's better, but in my opinion, it's the people. You got people out there that think that Alvin Kamara could be a wide receiver. That doesn't make sense to me, and not to take away from his pass catching ability. It's great. It's one of the best in the league for the running back. McCaffrey and him are the best, I would say, at receiving. But you can't tell me that Saquon and Cook are really that much worse at pass
That
catching.
just doesn't make much sense to me. Because they're also much different receiving running backs. Alvin Kamara
Yeah,
is your
yeah.
screen dump off 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. CMC is the guy who actually lines up as a wide receiver and runs legitimate routes and stuff. So not only, are they just different, in running backs, but even as receiving backs, they're much 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 different. So I will say though, if you look at like difficulty for each role, I think CMC lining up as a wide receiver is a tougher role to assume than Alvin Kamara standing behind 300-pound linemen and catching dump offs from Drew Brees. I mean,
I mean,
I think McCaffrey's a tougher role.
I mean, I once again, they're all different, but like, I wouldn't say CMC is this like could be a receiver or anything.
No,
I
I'm
know,
not.
I
I'm
know
I'm
that's not
more
the case.
just juxtaposing the two.
Yeah, but both of their average depth of target is -1 yards. So, I mean, for you to sit there, and not you, but for the people that think Kamara is the best or top three out of these guys, for you to sit there and tell me he's this elite receiver, he's way better than everyone else. His -1 average depth of target, and I'm not trying to harp on him, but quit acting like he could be this receiver one. When yes, he's a great pass catcher, but it's mostly screens behind the line, and especially when you look at the other five, who's the worst rusher out of them? It's Kamara. And once again, it's going to sound like I'm hating on him. I think he's great, easily a top six running back,
Mhm.
but I just can't put him above those guys.
I agree. Anything else to add?
No, sir.
All right. So I think that I think we've agreed on like 11 out of the 12 things so far, but I do think we will definitely have some disagreements with the last segment. And again, guys, if you're listening, I bet we're about 30 minutes in by now. If you are listening, drop a subscribe and follow all of, both of us on everything and go do all that. But anyway, top 6 receivers. Give me your, let's see. I think there's a tier between 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, 5, and 6. Honestly, you could add like 7 and 8 after that. But give me your 1, 2, and 3.
I think the top three on their own tier goes Adams, Hopkins, Julio.
All right, so I'm different in all 3. So number 1, I have Hopkins. Number 2, I have Julio, and number 3, I have Adams. Again, it's more of just a overall thing and how I think. I don't know. DeAndre Hopkins was used so improperly last year. I'm pretty sure you and I could have done a better job at utilizing DeAndre Hopkins' skill set better than Cliff Kingsbury could. DeAndre Hopkins, when it comes to a hands standpoint and just a pure talent standpoint, he's like the Saquon Barkley of the wide receivers. I think he's the most talented receiver in the league. I mean, that guy is unreal. And don't just bring up that one Bills play because obviously that was nuts, but just go on YouTube right now after this podcast and just look up DeAndre Hopkins highlights and just, I mean, come on, the guy's a freak. So that's why I had him 1, just for his skill set, his ability, and look at his production when he was utilized the right way. And it's not even just because he was in a less crowded offense, because first of all, he was in a more crowded offense in Houston when he had to battle with Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller, and he was still able to stake
Not
out a part
Cooks.
of the offense. Not Cooks.
Cooks was new this year.
You're right. Kenny Stills and Will Fuller. I don't know. I think this year, not only was it a more wide open offense for Hopkins, but they just didn't utilize him the right way. So I still think he's number 1. Julio, again, the only reason I don't have him number 1 is he's going to be 33 next year. If he can perform like he did before he got hurt this year, move back up to number 1. That guy is sick. We all know that. Number 3, Adams. not trying to harp on the guy or anything. He had a great year, of course, but it is worth noting he has the best quarterback out of the three. And I don't think his production would be the same if you were on a different team. And also, I don't know. It's kind of like a Kamara thing. I just think the two receivers above him are the more complete receiver than Adams is. Number four, actually, sorry, I've been talking for a little while. Who do you have for? Just number four.
Well, I don't know. I think you gotta put Adams at one, in my opinion, and I can see two under Hopkins. I guess. Well, it's not absurd to put Adams at three, but like I think because I understand the if like because we're doing overall, and you're not just gonna go straight off of this year. But it's not the same thing as Josh Allen because obviously Josh Allen wasn't top 20 and he made this insane jump. So it's kind of you don't know if he'll maintain it, which I believe he will. But Adams was ranked. He was already ranked in the top 7. He was 5 to 7, pretty consensus before this year. So I don't think it's insane to put him up there because he was already and he was already an elite
It's
receiver.
not insane at all. And I actually battle with putting Devontae Adams number one. I don't know. To me, it's a preference thing. If I'm being completely honest with you, because if you think about it, they're all three very different receivers. They all specialize in different things. So it's whatever you prefer the most. For me, I like Hopkins' skill set the most, so I put him one. I like Julio, not only his history of what he's done, but I still think he can do it. So I put him number two. And then Adams, he had a fantastic year. I think he will build off of it. It just doesn't build up to what the two other receivers have done in past years and what I think they'll do in the future too. So that's why I had Adams at three. Again, you could honestly, I could put any three of those in any order, and I could argue my way into it.
Okay, yeah, fair. But yeah, the just to explain the Julio one, um, stop acting like Julio Jones is washed. He's not. You didn't. He played 9 games this year out of 16, so he missed 7 games. He's always really had an issue with injuries. And I mean, he played 15 games last year, and then a full season the 2 seasons before, 14 year before that. I mean, he usually plays through the injuries, which he didn't this year for the most part. But
And
people
even
act
when
like
he played, he was a game time decision for half of those games.
yeah, people act like he was not good when he played or something, which I don't understand because the only thing you can really harp on is the yards per game, which is barely down. I mean, his career average in yards per games is 95, and it was 86 this year. 80,
95 is the most all time.
yeah, and his catch percentage, his career catch percentage is 64%. This year it was 75%, 10% better than his career average. Um, and then his catches per game, his career average per year is 6.3. I mean per game, and this year was 5.7. His numbers were like barely down, except especially that catch percentage was more insane than it usually is. But he,
Who's also hurt.
I mean, I don't understand this he's washed thing. It's like, well, you obviously didn't watch him play. You're just listening to casuals and TikTok comments or something like. But yeah, my 4, I'm going Tyreek.
For Tyreek, I could see that. My four, I have Michael Thomas. That guy is criminally underrated. I think you and I have the same stance on Michael Thomas. I mean, I don't really think I need to do much explaining about it. Kind of like Julio in the sense where he was hurt for the majority of the season. I still think Michael Thomas is sick. I mean, not only is he a great route runner, but he is. I just think he's the most complete receiver in the NFL. Maybe Julio. Michael Thomas is a top 3 complete receiver in the NFL, in my opinion. I just think he has just all around a great skill set. So that's why I have number 4. Number 5, though, on the topic of Tyreek Hill, I have Tyreek Hill at number 5. Um, he's the most explosive receiver in the NFL. I think when you're a defense and if you have to game plan for any player in the league, I think Tyreek Hill is probably the toughest just from his boom ability and his ability to just completely take over a game. I mean, just the one that sticks out like a sore thumb to me is, week, God, I don't know, 11 or 12 versus Tampa Bay, 270 yards in the first quarter. They clearly just didn't have an answer for him. And it just shows you just how much of how good he is. Please, if I hear one more person say all he is fast, I will jump off a cliff. Watch one game, watch one drive with Tyreek Hill where he has more than 2 catches, and you'll be like, oh, okay, never mind, because he is the guy is unreal. So I had him at number 5. But yeah,
Yeah, it's because yeah, I've changed my mind on the tier thing because I think I put out a video a few days ago saying that those three we just talked about were the top tier, and then I put Hill and Diggs on the next tier, and I put MT and A Rob on the. I think tier one is Adams, Hopkins, and Julio, and tier two is all of Hill, Diggs, MT, and Allen Robinson. And I wouldn't call you crazy to put those in any order, but I got Hill at 4, and like you said, he's just fast. Narrative is just people that don't like the Chiefs or don't understand that he might not be a top 10 route runner, but obviously he's the fastest receiver in the NFL. And you combine those, it's about being hard to guard, and he's one of the hardest receivers to guard in the NFL. He's probably top 5, hardest to guard in the league. And don't even bring up people don't even realize how great of a contested catcher he is. He can make some insane plays, and it's those
he had the
casuals.
highest contested catch percentage in the league last year.
Yeah, but then and then you're gonna get these guys in the comments. So, oh, you see that drop he had in the Super Bowl? He has blocks says on his hand. Like, okay, buddy. Okay, but
Highest, he's 5'8". He had, or 5'9", 10, something like that. Highest contested catch percentage in the league. That's ridiculous.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I had Hill at 4 and Diggs at 5 and Thomas / A Rob at 6. Once
So
again,
you had
I
Hill
don't
at 4.
really
Who'd you have at 5?
Diggs,
Diggs.
but like I said, it's just I feel like 6. So I put Thomas at 6 on my videos, and I got all these Saints fans. You're disrespecting Michael Thomas, and I feel like maybe that is just a little bit. But they were all saying he's top 2, top 3 still, and it's like okay. But for the most part, he's underrated because you got anyone who hates him or calls him slant boy. Doesn't even think he's top 10. He's one of those guys ranked all over the place, and he definitely is because obviously he played injured all year, dealt with a backup quarterback, dealt with a washed up Drew Brees, and he was big time playing through injuries. So I mean, I think it's pretty common knowledge that just don't judge him off of this year, man. Don't act like last year didn't happen. But yeah, and then Diggs,
I think
Diggs
3
has
out of the 6 receivers like that. Don't judge him off of this year. MT, Julio, and Hop.
yeah, but one thing though, people act like Hopkins had a bad year and he didn't. He had a fun.
No, he didn't do what people thought he was going to
It
do.
wasn't a Hopkins year, but it was still a top 5 year.
Hold on, I
Um,
want to pull up his numbers.
yeah, but and then like you said, it's because Cliff Kingsbury needs to be fired. He's an idiot. Didn't use him right. Um, yeah,
Like I sold 1,400 yards.
Yeah, and that's docked as a bad year for people because I've been a lot of those comments saying he did not have a very good year. Really?
Oh my god, I gotta take that back. I look like an idiot now. Holy shit. I didn't realize. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I thought he had 1,100, 1,200 yards. Wow.
Yeah, I mean
All
he
right, so it
definitely
just proves my number 1 spot even more, I guess. Jesus. Yeah, no, Hopkins is sick.
yeah. Now I don't. I think I'm still gonna put Diggs at 5, and the only reason I wouldn't is because I'm getting sick of seeing him too high, and I've been seeing him at 2 and 3 lately. And to be honest, I could see you make the case to put him over Tyreek, although I disagree. But it's not crazy. It is crazy to put him over Julio, Hopkins, and Adams, in my opinion. But I mean, because obviously he's a top 3 route runner in the league. He's got great hands. Um, and then Allen Robinson deserves to be in this conversation. And literally the only reason he isn't is because of his quarterback. And that's not even one of those things where it's not even like the Saquon one where like he didn't produce this year, even though it was 1.5 games. No, that's not a good example. It's not one of those things where you're arguing for someone that hasn't produced yet or anything because puts up elite numbers with the worst quarterbacks. Like he has had the worst luck at quarterback, and I'm sure he's done in Chicago, and he should be. He needs to go somewhere with a good quarterback, but I think he has the best hands in the league. Him and Hopkins are interchangeable in that aspect to me. and he's a borderline top 10 route runner. And his contested catches absolutely insane. Has the least drops out of anyone. And like I don't know whatever stat I saw. He has like one drop in the past, like it was like a few hundred targets or something. The dude is insane, and the only reason that no one wants to put him on this tier with these guys is because his numbers are slightly behind him, I guess. And let's give his quarterback. Give him a good situation, or give him a decent situation. He's never had a decent situation in his career.
Yeah, I had him at 6, and he was my clear-cut number 6. Again, not a knock on Stephon Diggs or anything. I think honestly, if you were to tell me right now, you got to pick a receiver. You got to pick either Stephon Diggs or Allen Robinson. I'm taking Allen Robinson. I just think he has the better hands. I feel like he's the more reliable receiver. He is that just goes by the stats too. He's a better route runner. He's dealt with worse quarterbacks, like we've said prior. Again, people love to rip on Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a top 10, top 12 quarterback in the league. So Stephon Diggs went from a top 12 quarterback to a top 7 quarterback. So, I mean, he hasn't had a bad time. And I mean, Stephon Diggs for his first few years was living in Adam Thielen's shadow too. I mean, he couldn't even surpass him. So, and I'm not trying to say Adam Thielen is this awful receiver and Adam Thielen had a bad time doing that. But I mean, sorry, Stephon Diggs had a bad time doing that. But I don't know. Again, I think a lot of these lists, they're very preference based, especially receivers, because I feel like for quarterbacks, that's clear cut, plain and simple. Running backs, you got there are two skill sets. You got power, you got elusive, and you got pass catcher. So I guess 3. For receivers, there are many different things you have to take into account. You got quarterback situation, route running, catching, speed, everything really, durability, so consistency. So for me, I valued Allen Robinson higher than Stephon Diggs. Of course, on a year thing, just like this year thing, my list would be completely different. Julio and M2 would be off of it. And I'd probably have Stephon Diggs number 4 behind Tyreek Hill. But again, if you're to take in the last few seasons, how I think their future is going to look for each player, I think Allen Robinson will be better than Stephon Diggs because it'd be very tough for him not to land on a team that doesn't have a good quarterback. So that's what I think.
Yeah, because I mean, I always get comments like when I call Allen Robinson underrated, and there's everyone's like, nobody's underrating him. Everyone thinks he's top 10, and like you can still be underrated if you're ranked, between 8 to 10. And like
Yeah.
I think he should, he deserves to be in this conversation for all these top 6 elite receivers. He deserves to be up there.
Especially when you have a top 10 list and you think a player is anywhere from 2 to 4 and they're being put 6 to 7, I say they're underrated because you're putting receivers or running backs or quarterbacks that are worse than them over them. And I think that's obviously overrating them or underrating them. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's sad to see Diggs.
I don't
I
envy
don't.
putting Diggs at 7. I
Yeah.
don't.
No, I'm just it's sad. It's sad that he's becoming a tad bit overrated, and I'm probably gonna get some hate for that. And because people don't understand that overrated does not mean bad. It just means ranked a few spots too high. Like I have him at 5, and when I see him at 2, that kind of pisses me off because that's overrating him, and I don't want the guy to become overrated because I love Stephon Diggs. I'm probably getting the Diggs jersey, the next jersey I get, but it sucks to see these guys become overrated. Like Josh Allen, I've seen him at 2, and that's ridiculous. I've seen him at 2 multiple times, which means you have to sit there and tell me he's better than Rodgers
You
and
can't even
one.
tell me for this season he was 2. I'd put him 4 this year. I put him behind Watson, Rodgers, and Mahomes. Oh my God. I hate the Watson and Allen debate. It's not a debate. I will stand by that. Oh, maybe, the completion percentage is like 0.8 off. First of all, Watson was better in every single stat except for touchdowns. And if you want to tell me, okay, well, at least they're comparable in stats, look at the situations. Josh Allen has got a solid offensive line, no run game, which benefits his arm, and he's got one of the best wide receiver trios in the league. And like you and I both said, a top 7 receiver. Deshaun Watson has good receivers. One of them was out for half the season. No run game, no offensive line, no defense, no coaching, nothing. He's got nothing. And he still puts up better stats than Josh Allen. So for me, it's not even a debate. But yeah.
honestly, like on that Watson thing, I wish people would treat Dak the same way. Like, we kind of talked about it earlier, but we didn't really get to it. They need to be treated the same way. I mean, like
Watson and
it's like
Prescott?
yes, not on the same level, but when people harp on like record or situation or stuff like that, like because when I said people will take away from Dak Prescott's record and they won't say anything about Watson.
I don't want to be an ass or anything. But whenever anybody ever brings up a record of a quarterback, I automatically discredit their opinion, if I'm being
Yep.
completely honest. Like
I don't. There's 22
one of my
people playing
comments
on
was
the
like,
field.
Watson can't be better because Allen has a better record. Like, it's just no. That's not how that works. It's not.
I mean, because people. I think people there. You can. I feel like you can debate if quarterback. The most important positions on the field are quarterback and left tackle, and like I don't think anyone really puts left tackle above quarterback. But are you gonna put the record on the left tackle? Like,
Yeah.
and I haven't heard that or anything. But there's 22 people on the field. There's the quarterback sitting on the bench for 50% of the game. Situation comes into this. You can't you can't sit there and blame Deshaun Watson. But I mean, I think for the most part that's pretty common sense. But there's a lot of people out there that don't agree with that, and I just plug my ears at that point because you seriously, like, how can you even make that? Like, how can you make the case for that? What evidence can you use?
I
Because
know.
I mean, I see all these, like, yes, Instagram posts is not evidence, but I mean, there's stuff that pops up all the times, like that Texan thing the other day where they won a game 24-7, and they had 47 total yards of
Oh yeah,
offense.
yeah.
The back had 3 completions. Oh, that. I guess that win. Oh, he won that. That quarterback won the game.
And of
I
course, that's an extreme outlier, of course, but
there's
it makes you think.
there's no piece of evidence to explain why it's a quarterback stat and not a team stat.
Hmm. I agree. We are consensus. We're definitely more consensus on this podcast than we normally are. Again, guys, this is the off season, so every podcast is going to be relatively relevant. So if you haven't already, go check out 440 and I's other podcast that we put out last week. We got into some pretty heated debates. Definitely my favorite podcast that we've put out so far. Again, I know we were pretty consensus. There were a few things we disagreed on, but I think we put out some pretty good analysis and reasoning for our takes. Again, if you did enjoy listening, make sure to subscribe. Go tell your friends about it because I know they would absolutely love listening to our takes. Go follow us on TikTok. Go follow the other podcasts, the Instagrams, Twitter. Go follow all that stuff. You got anything else?
Just comment on YouTube or our TikToks or something, or preferably probably our Red Zone Room TikTok will be more likely that we see it. Comment some topics for us to talk about because
Yes.
we were trying to find some stuff we disagreed on before this podcast, and we just kept agreeing on everything.
Mhm.
We know people love to see debates and controversial stuff and disagreeing, but we were struggling to disagree on things today. So we
Yeah.
we, we want to know what you guys want to hear some.
We'll probably put out a post either today or tomorrow saying like comment some things to do. So if you guys want to hear something that's been on your mind, make sure to go drop a comment on either again the TikTok or this. And yeah, got anything else? All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.